Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I'm going to show you in this video how we like to disperse justice and how we, the free countries, the good countries, find all kind of euphemistic, gymnastics in order to give an action a different meaning. Okay, but we give the same action, the right meaning that meets the definition, the dictionary definition, only when we choose. So when we have a country that we don't like and the country does something, we call it as it is, and we use the dictionary, for that to find the right term for the action. When a country that we support does the same thing, we're not going to use a dictionary for that. We're going to use the dictionary term for that action. We're going to use a euphemism, something that will turn it from, let's say in this case, having a bad connotation into something that has a, either good connotation or, in between, something like, there's no problem over there. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a law signed by Zelensky, the president of the Ukrainian nation, and we would call this a xenophobic move if that would have been done by, let's say, Russia or a country that we want to change its regime and we want them to do what we tell them to do. We will use that as an example of human rights violation or, extreme views and, racism, xenophobia and all that. So, what am I talking about? I have 3 articles with the same subject, the same issue, but I'm going to tell you how they all 3 interpret the issue. This article, the first one I'm using, is from the New York Times, and this is the title: Zelensky signs law banning Russian place names, part of broader, decolonization effort. The action late Friday was the latest in a series of steps by Ukraine to distance itself from a long legacy of Russian domination. Why now? Why made it a law? Wasn't Ukraine independent at least from 2014? Why now? Oh, because they invaded. Okay, so that's what triggers this thing. Imagine that you would have a country, all countries, let's say, in most countries in Europe, in Africa, banning, what the Zelensky banned. Let's say from Europe, and anything that's Western, any painter, they don't have anything to do with them. They could also destroy any institution that was brought by the a few European colonizing countries. How about that? And they will not get anything in their school from the Western civilization. They will erase everything because they colonized them. And how about Russia, decolonizing itself from, let's say, German or American or other French, philosophers, artists, and all that, because they didn't have some good historical events with these guys, Germans, French, and Brits most of all, and then you have not most of all, because the Germans I think did it more than everybody else for the Russians, but there was one incident out of many that you can bring the Brits in, you can bring many others. So anyway, I don't remember Russians or Soviet Union invading United States of America, but I know the US forces invaded. At that time was still, Russia, Soviet Union. I remember, I think it was in 1918 or 1919, during the revolution, that awful revolution, so-called, the Bolshevik revolution. They landed troops in Far East, if you remember, the Americans. So anyway, they want to save democracy too. So if we would do this, we would call it xenophobia. But here we don't call it xenophobia. It's De-Russification. Who made you do this? Who pushed you into this? Why now? Only now they're the bad dudes? Before they were okay, but now that they invaded, they're now definitely the bad dudes? You didn't know they're the bad dudes? Okay, then what's the problem with, let's say, Shishkin or Ayvazovsky? Let's say 2 painters, 2 Russian fantastic painters. What's wrong with them? Why should you ban them? What did they do to you? Is that De-Russification, decolonization? How did they colonize it? It's a recognition of art. It's not a recognition of a Russian. It just happened to be Russian. The same, I can give you Tolstoy, I can give you many others. What's wrong with that? Pushkin and whomever. But it's okay, that's the way. It's not called xenophobia, it's called De-Russification, So that's the New York Times weasels. Let's go to the next one, which is coming from this one. It's Microsoft blah blah blah. First spot, but first post blah blah blah. There are other ones as well. I'm just giving you a little bit of a flavor. Ukraine President Zelensky signs law banning place names connected with Russia. Kiev, in an effort to, and I'm quoting, de-Russification. Who Russified you since 1991? Were you under occupation or something? Amid Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky signed legislation prohibiting naming geographic sites in Ukraine after Russian figures or historical events associated with Russian aggression. What do you mean Russian aggression? You're not going to call it Putin, right? Or that goes without saying. These guys, again, they try to de-Russification and all this. Why? Remember, under these kind of situations, under these kind of circumstances, rights are taken away by people and institutions that have no right to take our rights away. Liberties are limited. Laws like this, mandates like this, they have no power. They shouldn't do it, or should be called the way they are. And this is, I think, is just a xenophobic move. If this would have been done by the Russians, let's say against British composers, whatever, artists, no, that would have been called as it should have been called. You can say, well, that's their right. It is their right. It's their right to do that, but does it make it good? I mean, it's my right to say all kind of things. Does it make it kind? It's my right to act. It's true. I have free will, right? But it's something that is stupid or something that's not stupid. I think that is not good. But anyway, see, this guy's cover. They don't call it as it is. And we read down here in the same article titled On Geographical Names. The law aims to address the decolonization of toponymy and to regulate the use of place names in Ukraine, according to the text of the law. All right, well, however you want, guys. The law also bans geographic markers associated with state totalitarian policies and practices related to the persecution of opposition figures, dissidents, and other persons. What do? You ban everything. When you say banning, it's a little limitation of something. You have to ban, pornography and things like this. I understand that one, but I don't think nobody has any problem with banning that kind of things. But here, call it as it is, my friends. Or at least that's the way I see it. Let's put it directly. Now, Russia Today. Ukraine bans places names connected to Russia. A new law prohibits toponymy related to its neighbors' history, culture, or personalities. Now, these guys tell it a different story a little bit than the other ones. President Zelensky has signed legislation eradicating references to Russian history or culture in the names of cities, towns, villages, and other geographical locations in Ukraine. Zelensky approved the so-called, I'm quoting, decolonization law. Well, if you take the colonization law, then you can take the colonization overall. So you should not use the colonizers anything from the colonizer as an idea. Why do you focus only on the Russians? If you're against colonization in general and Russia in particular, you're not honest. I mean, you should not use any of the 5 or 6 countries that colonized this planet, mostly. According to the website of Ukrainian Parliament, the law prohibits, and I'm quoting, praising commemorative propagandist names. Who decides what a propagandist name? The government. Relating the Russian state, its symbols, historic or cultural places, cities, dates, and events. Historic and cultural places. What does that have to do with that? It's symbols. Okay, they have an eagle. I think it has a double-headed eagle. Is that a... I know Poland has also. Does it? Or just one? can't remember if Polish has a double. I think it's only one. The ban also covers personality who committed military aggression against Ukraine and other sovereign states. Well, we have a lot of people against Ukraine. The law will come into force 3 months after its publication. All right. Well, I don't know why this was free. It says here that after that, local administration will have 6 months to free the public space from symbols of the Russian world, dismantle statues and monuments, rename streets and other objects, end quote. Well, it's not as bad as other countries or other nations who destroy their own histories, symbols and names and all that. So that's, you can go, well, you know what, we have a problem with you Russians, so we don't want to hear about you, we don't want to have you in our lives because you did all that to us. All right, those are a different country. But what do you do when you do it yourself? I think I was a little bit dishonest when I spoke with that person at the store today. Smack! I think I didn't behave right then. Let me cut my finger. Bam! Okay, what next? I think when I was, like 20 years ago, I just cut the line. Bang! That's what the United States is doing with itself right now. The problem is all these ideas are coming from forces that are not, how should I put it, directly, are not promoting the American dream. I think they are for other kind of dream, and that dream is kind of like red in color. We'll see. It's about power, my friends. And remember, there's groups that would change their little coat in a second and their ideologies just to get in power. Because sometimes I don't understand when people say, well, these guys are doing this, oh, these guys. I say, wait, how come? Well, because it's about power. They don't care how they get it. So in the United States, they will find something. They will find something about this guy's history, this guy's founding fathers, this guy's traditions, and they will destroy that. Why? In order to get power. Not because they believe in that. I mean, they fool the idiots, but, to go along with their little, that guy was owning, slaves, or that guy was owning this, or that guy did that, like you never did anything wrong. That's the whole thing. Is and I have to again quote the Bible, the scriptures. When you do this, you shut people up because they say, I can't argue with that one, unless they say, oh, that analogy was stupid, because you don't like it, but it's not stupid. The ones who have no sins should cast the first stone or throw the first rock. Remember when they tried to kill Maria Magdalena or Mary Magdalene? Remember? And Jesus Christ, our Savior, showed up and said, hey, I'm not going to be Martin Luther King here, but who has no sins should cast the first rock. Let me see. Ready? Go. Anybody? Anybody was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And they all dropped the rocks. Well, I don't see that happening in this society right here. They're like, everybody's perfect here. From those, they're all, oh, you did this, your guy did this, that guy did this, that guy. I never did anything wrong. Well, you did wrongs, I guarantee you did something wrong. But anyway, that would make you feel superior and take a shit on other people's, heroes. Or maybe not heroes, but why do you, I don't want to say, why do you hate this so much? Which, for some people, it reduces to exactly that, but because their own impotence creates something good. They try to destroy something in order to get themselves higher. No, why don't you create something? Well, we create by destroying and starting over. Well, with that one I can, but with that one was a lot of crimes were committed on this world. Remember the Nazis? What they want to do? They want to get rid of something, so they create something great. So again, that argument doesn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I don't think it works in this country, and it shouldn't. Unless you feel that you are part of this thing, at least tell us, I'm not. And then we know exactly who's who and what's what. But by their statements, we know who's who, what's what. There's no wonder about that. And the problem is all these things are infiltrated to the highest point. So what are you going to do then? These guys destroyed their monuments and history themselves. They don't have to have the Russians come and do it for them. Nah. So the Ukrainians say, well, we're gonna destroy, we're gonna, monuments and all this and all that. Okay, for an outside force. Okay, we're gonna defend ourselves as one against those. The Americans are doing with themselves. That's even, hey, Americans, come on. This is not the American spirit. But hey, things changed. We love diversity now. Diversity is our strength. Yeah. And inclusivity. But inclusion only a few. We exclude others, you know what I mean? Include only who's on our side. Who's not on our side, we include it but not moving, you know what I mean? Just dragging him. He's with us. Is he still breathing? No, he's done. No pulse. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.